In this video I'm going to show you how I forged this axe completely by hand. That means no power hammer, no hydraulic press, no grinder. Let's go! I start out with a rectangular billet of C45. Now I chose C45 because I think it's a good steel for beginners. It's fairly easy to move under the hammer and it's quite easy to heat treat. I make a mark at about 35 mm from the back. This is where we will begin to punch the eye of the axe. It's time to start punching the eye of the axe, and I am using what is commonly known as a hammer eye punch to do the job. I take my time in the beginning, making sure that everything is relatively straight before I apply more force. The way I like to do this is to go about 3/4 of the way through, and then I flip it and start punching from the other side. Adding some crushed charcoal can help get the punch out if it gets stuck. You can also hit the back of the axe to release the tool. I make a mark on the other side of the billet so that I know where to start punching. If all goes well, you will eventually have a little plug come out, and hopefully a hole straight through the billet. It's now time to start drifting the eye, and we do this to make the eye larger and also to shape it. Now you will see me using several different drifts, but most drifts that you can buy have a long taper so that you can use it for all stages of shaping the eye. I like to try and forge the eye section of the axe to about 90% done before I start forging the blade of the axe. It's much easier to do it now since there is no blade in the way of our forging. When I am happy with the eye section, I make a mark at about 10 to 13 mm in front of the eye. This is where I will begin making a set down. To make the set down, I am using a set down tool. Now you could do this with a 7 to 10 mm round bar as well. You could even use the edge of the anvil. It's now time to start forging the blade, and I begin by spreading the material with the peen section of my hammer. It's important to never lose track of the design while forging. You will see me going back and forth between spreading the material and making sure it is in line and true to the design I have in mind. When I am happy with the blade section of the axe, I go back once again to the eye section to forge it into its final shape. It's now time to prep the axe for heat treatment, and that means that we're going to clean up the profile and establish a rough edge. And since we're doing it all completely by hand, this is what we're going to use. The way I like to think about grinding is not to reshape, but rather to refine what I did not manage to do with my hammer. When filing the edge, I start by establishing an edge line that's about 1 to 2 millimeters thick, and then I work my way back to create a nice appleseed shaped edge. The next step is to put my maker's mark in the axe. Before I quench the blade, I need to let it rest, and I do that by heating it up and letting it cool by air. This step is usually called normalizing. It's now time to harden the blade, and I do that by heating the blade up and quenching it in water. Remember that different steel types are heat treated in different ways, so make sure you look up how to heat treat the steel that you are using. To temper the blade, I first use some sandpaper on the edge so that I can see the steel properly. After that, I take it back to the fire, carefully watching the temper colors. To test the hardness of the axe, I use these Rockwell testers. If the axe is too hard, there is a risk that it might break and it won't be easy for the user to sharpen. But if it's too soft, it won't hold an edge at all. So depending on what it's going to be used for, you have to balance hardness and toughness. To sharpen the axe, I start out with a really hard file, slowly working my way down until it's almost sharp. I then switch over to fine grit sandpaper until I can see some burr on the edge of the axe. To hone the edge, I take some leather and apply polishing compound, and then I pull the edge towards me to remove the burr, making the axe quite sharp. So now that the head is completed, it's time to move over to the handle. As a beginner, my suggestion is that you buy a store-bought handle. And what we are going to do first is that we are going to remove a little bit of material at the top here so that we can fit the head. And then we're going to apply just a little bit of force and try to set the head down just a little bit, and we're going to remove material until we can get the head in a position of our liking. So let's begin. In this case, I am using a carving knife to remove the material. After I have tried to fit the head, I can see where it made contact with the wood. I then carefully remove material in the spots where it made contact, and I keep going back and forth until the head is in a position I am happy with and it has contact all around the handle. That means it's a good fit and the head is seated well. I then cut a slot in the handle for the wedge to sit in, and I do this to lock the head to the handle, doing all in my power to make sure the head won't come off. I use a rasp and some sandpaper to shape the handle to my liking. And then I apply linseed oil to protect the handle from the elements. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really hope you enjoyed it. So in today's video we made this axe and I'm also giving it away. So please subscribe and leave a comment and I'll pick one out at random that will receive this axe. So I've been getting a lot of questions from people that want to know more about axe making, so I thought, hey, why not make a video about it? And this is the video. I really hope this video was helpful, that it could inspire you or it could help you in your forging journey. That's really what I hope with this video. I would also like to take a moment to thank Vivor, who sponsored this video with an anvil. They contacted me a while back asking me if I could do an anvil review. At first I was skeptical, but then I accepted, but only if I could be 100% honest, and they said that was okay. So I tried the anvil out in this video and I must say I was surprised. It was a decent anvil actually. I really like that shape with the wider face and the nice big fat horn. That's how I like them. It's good for axe making, in my opinion. There were some flaws. There were some casting flaws on the sides. They tried to paint it over, but hey, I could spot them pretty easily. But nothing on the face and nothing on the horn. They were in good condition. The corners of the anvil were very sharp, so those need to be dressed with an angle grinder to round them off a little bit. And the horn was not dressed at all. It was straight from the casting with only paint over, so you have to go over the horn as well to smooth everything out. There was one thing that I really didn't like about it, and that's the milled surface on the anvil. It left horrible marks in the workpiece. So important, if you buy this anvil, go over it with sandpaper until you're happy with the texture. And I mean, the more you use it, the nicer the surface will become eventually. But other than that, it's a great anvil, and depending on where you live in the world, I think the price is pretty decent as well, depending on how much older anvil there are available and to what price they are. But depending on where you are in the world, it's a decent anvil. So thank you to Vivor for sponsoring. There are some links in the description with discounts if you're interested. Thank you, Vivor, and thank you very much for watching the video. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.